he can sign stuff for us. So thanks again for coming down.
Yeah, thanks guys, seriously.
I was going to say we can want to introduce ourselves in case maybe people don't know.
Maybe you were just shopping. What's going on?
I'm Mike DiMartino. I'm one of the co-creators along with Brian and executive producer.
Both The Legend of Korra and Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yes.
And I'm Brian Knitzko, the other co-creator and art director.
I'm Joaquin Dos Santos, director and co-executive producer of Legend of Korra.
I'm Ki-hyun Yu. I'm supervising producer of Korra.
And just both these guys worked on Avatar in various capacities. Joaquin came on as a storyboard artist in the second season, and then became a director in the third season, and directed the finale episodes. And Ryu was an animator that we met in Korea, and he ended up doing tons of amazing key animation on the premiere episode of Avatar, and helped design some characters. He even actually helped refine Aang's design, his model, like right as we went into production. He gave some tips on that. So.
And he did Foamy Mouth Guy.
Oh yeah, Foaming Mouth.
So some of you may have heard today, we finally got to announce that book 2 is premiering on September 13th. Friday night at 7 p.m. And that'll be the usual time slot, they tell us. So 7 p.m. Friday nights.
Wow.
Finally, it's going to happen.
So we just wanted to, to celebrate this book, this beautiful book that we were put together with Dark Horse. And the good news is the plan is there's supposed to be 4 of these total. We're going to do 1 for each season, or each book, a book for each book. And if you've seen the book, it kind of goes through each, the development period, and then each episode, and then all the ancillary art. So you can see this kind of visual chronicle of all of the crazy amounts of assets that we have to generate, for the show, and it's just a sample of it all. But the period of time that we wanted to talk to you guys about is represented by the first chapter, the development. Ooh, that got louder. Is that better? Yeah. Whoa. Aim it at your mouth. All right. That is better. Okay. So the 4 of us, there was this amazing period at the very beginning of Korra where it was just, the whole staff was just us 4, and our offices actually were in this order.
It was, yeah.
And now we're all spread out all over the Nickelodeon building. But this was early 2010, and Mike and I came back to Nickelodeon to work on Korra in February 2010, and then Ryu and Joaquin joined us in March. So by that point, Mike and I have been kicking around a lot of writing stuff and coming up with characters and the scenario of this world. But then these guys joined us.
Yeah, we got this amazing call that was like, hey, we're having this awesome party over here at Nickelodeon again, and we were happily working at Warner Brothers at the time, but the party seemed so much cooler over at Nickelodeon. So we jumped ship immediately. It wasn't really much of a decision to make. We just ran over there.
Yeah, and these guys were for sure the first 2 guys we went to, because when we got the Nickelodeon said, hey, you guys can make 12 episodes of anything you want in the Avatar universe, just has to have some bending in it. We were like, all right, cool. So Brian and I kicked around some ideas for a few weeks and kind of hit on this idea of making it a girl, making it Korra from the Water Tribe, and making her totally the opposite of what we had done with Aang's character. And I think we pitched Joaquin just the kind of basic idea of her character, and that night he had already sketched a few drawings, which are actually in the book, I think, those first couple.
Literally the drawings that you guys see in the book are the first 2 drawings that I had done, and it was based off of the loose pitch that you guys gave me, and then I remember both you guys saying imagine a snowboarder in the Avatar universe, what would she be? So out came the big baggy pants, and
Yeah, so we just had this, like, I think, you know, in the book we describe it as like a creative carte blanche. Like, we always thought when, you know, if and when Nickelodeon did come and say, hey, we want more episodes, we thought they'd just want the same characters and just kind of drag that out. And which is something that we didn't want to do creatively, but even logistically, like Zach, who was Aang's voice, I mean, he's like 20 something now, you know, he's like, it would just never be the same, and we felt that story was complete. But it was so cool. We just had this period where, you know, Mike and I would get together and kick around story stuff, and at a certain point, if we got stuck or we wanted to see what these guys, you know, if they had any ideas, they would join us in Mike's office. We'd kick around ideas, and then we'd all go off in our separate offices, and Mike would, you know, continue to develop the character descriptions and write up, like, you know, the kind of scenario of the world, and then I would go and was working on like paintings and drawings of the, you know, what this world was going to look like, and Joaquin and Ryu were doing these amazing character designs and all sorts of concept designs, and then we would have these powwows, and you know, Mike and I have worked pretty much on Avatar in this world for 11 years now, and you know, some days are work, some days are really hard, and some days are awesome. You know, we love our job, but I do remember this period, the development on Korra with the four of us. Like, when I would wake up in the morning, like, I couldn't get to work fast enough. I was so excited just to get in and kick around ideas and create with these guys.
And especially for TV, it's like super rare to have that opportunity to do that. We're like, I always say to everybody, we're like the guerrilla warfare guys of animation, because we kind of have to hit it on the, you know, the first mark and send it out on its way to become a cartoon. We don't traditionally have these like big periods of just developing stuff. So it was artistically, it was a real magical time for everybody.
Yeah, and we wanted to really work that in. We knew going back, like, just how hard it is to, you know, just hit the ground running with a new show. Even though this was a continuation, in a sense, it was really like redesigning everything from the ground up. Like, it was a new character design style, new painting style, new art direction style, and everything that Brian wanted to do. So it was, you know, we definitely worked that in. So we had, like, you know, maybe a month or two to kick around ideas, and like the pressure was a little bit off for a little while, but then it goes by so fast that, like, before long you're like, now we got to actually turn in the first story and have the character designs finalized. And
well, I also remember this time there was an interesting situation, especially with like master artist Ryu here. We would do these concepts, usually like little sketches, and then Ryu would look at it and be like, he'd go away to his office for like 45 minutes and come back and be like, hey, what about this? He'd be like, hey, what about this?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So he would look at our drawing and then hold it over there, and then say, hey, what about this? And it would be the idea that you thought you were drawing in your head, he actually put down on paper and made it look amazing. So it's like, it would go through this weird process where our weird drawings would become these beautiful things out of the Ryu filter.
Ryu also did some weird drawings too, though.
He did some very weird drawings. I mean, clown Bolin.
Ryu, what do you remember about that period?
Actually, I remember that something age issue. I think I'm Asian, so I heard a lot. I'm looking young, but then my age. So I can believe the Korra is 16. So I drew a lot of Marco, Bolin, and Korra drew. Everybody say, hey, it's looking 13. It's 16. And yeah, so every time, yeah, we had the different culture problem. Yeah.
We also, I remember, you know, we're all friends, and it was a very fruitful and creative time, but we did argue about stuff. We had this whole heated debate about how to draw an ear. And Joaquin likes to put the word theory behind everything. He's like, ear theory, you know? It's like there's a wrinkle theory on clothes, like how you stylize wrinkles, and there's like also, you know, far eye theory, like if an eye is turning away from you, but it's sticking out from the face, you know? Joaquin, he's got all these theories, and ear theory was our most heated debate, you know, for sure. And you know, an ear is a pretty complex thing, so to simplify it, but for a show like ours, it's kind of realistic. These guys are, I'll never do a drawing as good as their worst drawing, but sometimes they turn in drawings, I'm like, what is this lump sticking out of the head? This is the craziest thing I've ever seen. They're like, that's a perfectly rendered ear. What are you talking about? So Mike was just standing there shaking his head as we just fought with each other. I still change their ears when they turn in drawings.
Yeah, and so when we were putting together this book, you know, Brian and I, for the first book, the Last Airbender art of book, you know, it was between series, so we were, you know, we had a lot of time to devote to it, so we did more writing and stuff, and there was like 61 episodes of artwork to go through, so it was quite a feat to finish that one, and it was pretty much a full-time job for, you know, a month or two, yeah. So this one, you know, we were doing as we're also trying to make the show, which makes it a little more difficult. That's why we brought Joaquin in to help us out, you know, with kind of the writing and caption part of things. But it's always a kind of interesting and fun trip down memory lane to go through all the artwork that, you know, after like 2 years later, going through, you know, not only all the development stuff that these guys did, but we worked with Studio Mir in South Korea, and they did tons of the pre-production designs, all the different character designs for individual episodes and background designs, and all the paintings that our two background painters did. And